Thank you. Next, Representative Regan.
Good morning, Secretary.
Good morning, Representative.
Nice to see you again. Director Koza, nice to see you again as well. Representative Costa asked a lot of the questions I was going to ask, but I do have a couple of follow-up. You mentioned in your opening remarks that 60% of your LEAs took part in security training throughout the Commonwealth. 60% obviously means 40% did not. Is that an optional thing for them?
Yes, that's information that is forwarded into me when they do their own assessments of what they need, and I provide the training. And I also provide, through the intermediate units, some training with centralized, and the schools will go to that.
Okay. I noticed in my own districts, specifically since the Newtown tragedy, I made my rounds and spoke to the superintendents in the 92nd district and trying to develop a consensus, and I found that there really wasn't one, that they all had different attitudes towards security, whereas one school superintendent was very proactive and was interested in implementing new programs and was interested in consulting with the state police and other law enforcement agencies as to what was the best way to proceed to secure his school. Yet another superintendent had this, well, the chances of it happening is so slim, I don't want to expend resources or funds. So to Representative Costa's questions, I would agree, and if you would agree, that there are varying opinions and there's a disparity of opinions. And I would also add that I think, from my experience of talking to these people, that many of their opinions are based on a lack of training in the area of security. Mm-hmm. They may think they know, but they don't know. Mm-hmm. I guess I'm rambling on, but just on what I've said so far, can I have your opinion?
I think you're correct. And out of every tragedy, you try to find a silver lining. And one of the things that happened after Columbine, after nickel mines, is we heighten our awareness of the things of the weaknesses of our schools. But this is all about leadership. And we have to make sure that our leaders in our school districts weigh the protections of our children, which they do. You know, I don't want to leave an impression out there that they're haphazard as far as this as a concern. The question is as to where they put this on their priority list, and we often hear parents to the defense of some of our administrators. Parents get overly concerned about a less than likely scenario of happening, and it may come across as they're not concerned. Administrators are not concerned about that incident. They are. It's just that they have a limited amount of time and a limited amount of resources and where they dedicate that. Training is key. 20 years ago, we probably didn't have a lot of sign-in, check-in places in school districts. People could walk in, parents could walk in, hey, I recognize this parent. We have changed our culture. We need to change it a little bit more.
Right. Well, my background is as a retired United States Marshal, and part of that responsibility was to secure federal buildings and protect the people inside. And I think it's noteworthy that we seem to go to great lengths in so many parts of our society, whether you're trying to enter the Capitol for your testimony today, I'm sure you pass through security. Mm-hmm. You want to go into a federal building or to a county courthouse to a proceeding, you pass through pretty stringent security. A football game, a amusement park, you pass through some level of security. Yet, in our public schools, we basically have a buzzer and a camera, maybe, and a glass door. Are we, in your opinion, at a point where we are kind of sticking our heads in the sand to think that this is such a rare occurrence that this couldn't happen again, but we see it happening again and again and again. I mean, we test every 30 days for a fire drill, yet there hasn't been a child killed in the fire, I don't think, in over a quarter century in a school. My concern is we're not willing to face the fact that we live in a new time, a new era, and these things are possible, and they are it is possible for them to happen with some degree of regularity, and we're not doing enough to keep up with the security of our children.
It's always a balance. I recognize your concern that when that incident occurs in a Pennsylvania school, it is the end of the world for the parents who are impacted by that incident, and your heart bleeds for those parents in Connecticut and Nickel Mines and other places when they get that knock or they hear that call or they see that flash across the screen. I don't believe that we take it lightly. I think we have to balance it, and the difficulty is how you balance a school environment, a school situation, a school building that's supposed to be open and inviting, with the concerns of safety for children. We have municipal pools, swimming pools, where these same children that are together in a building during a week go on a weekend to play, and the security at some of those areas is almost non-existent in many places. We have other areas where children get together where we don't have those types of environments. Schools unfortunately become a central theme. Movie theaters, for example, of what we've heard about in Aurora and other places where large numbers of people congregate. So it's always the difficulty of finding that proper balance between what an educational setting can be and making sure that we don't make it a less inviting, a less attractive place to be for a child. It's a balance.
Well, your point is certainly well taken. I guess when we live in a free society, we're going to have these issues we have to deal with. But just my final question is, I know that in the wake of the tragedy at Newtown, there was a call for arming of teachers. And I wanted to get your opinion on that, and maybe Director Kozub's opinion as well.
I have a reservation about that as an issue, and because I think there's a lot of things that we have to address first before we do that. But I would be hesitant to go forward with that as an issue just yet.
I do not agree with it. I'm very hesitant in arming of teachers or faculty within a school building. I see potential for things to happen with an untrained person, and especially in that type of nature, even though they may go through a basic training of 40 hours or whatever for that. I still am very hesitant to agree with that.
And even some of our school district personnel, our two largest school districts in the state, do not like to have armed personnel, armed officers in their buildings. So even a trained armed officer is not something that they think is in the best interest of those. So it's a very difficult issue. I know it's gathering a lot of attention as far as a potential solution to this issue, but I have some reservations about it.
Well, I would agree with both your opinions on that, but I would also say that your comment that some of the members of your school districts and your administrators don't agree with having an armed officer, even a trained officer in the school. I would again fall back on the people making those statements or making those decisions. I wonder what their background is in security. What are they basing it on? I mean, I know that I wouldn't want you to ask me to make up a lesson plan for a biology class, and I wouldn't even offer an opinion. And we have people, I think, in education who are offering opinions on security who, with all due respect, don't have any training background or clue as to what they're talking about. Don't you think, your opinion again, if you don't mind, don't you think that decisions of security should be left up to the experts in security? And that's my final question. Thank you.
No different than no different than decisions on other aspects of the educational setting should be left up to other experts in that area. But when you look at the totality of things, it is something that has to come into play as part of that balance that we talked about before.